I am Josh Campbell. I'm a founder and partner at Rescue Air. I started Rescue Air in January of 2014. We are a heating and air conditioning and plumbing company, residential only, here in Dallas, Texas. I've always liked new softwares. Like I've always been on the front edge of like new cool stuff that's coming out. So I kind of embrace new technology, and we had a few other AI softwares we were implementing at the same time, Rilla and Avoca and Hatch. And then I checked it out and was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And we know that follow-up's like this nightmare, right? We've been coached on that since like 2010. Everybody who's been in business forever is like, dude, follow up with your customers, follow up people. It takes them 2, 3, 4 times to say yes to something. And we know that we're not good about it. We know that we all get busy and you forget to follow up. And then at the same point in time, it's like, it's this critical thing you need to do, but you're not doing it. It's like going to the gym or something when you're not going to the gym.
Yeah. So it sounds like estimate follow-up was your biggest thing. Oh, yeah. And were you, what is your
recently process? Started plumbing too. And I don't know if you're aware of this. I love my plumbers, God bless them. They don't follow up on anything. They're like the worst at it, and you can publish that too. I'll stand behind it. These guys hate presenting options. In large part, HVAC guys have more sales training than plumbing guys do, and I think just from like the type of person who becomes a plumber isn't typically you're a guy who wants to go do a bunch of sales. So HVAC guys leave tons of estimate and don't have time to follow up on them. Our plumbers definitely don't follow up on it, right? So in there, it's just it adds a level of customer service that we probably didn't know that we needed. It's easy to see what went through it. It's hard to know what you wouldn't have gotten before, but there's a lot of feel in there. I think like in the first 2 weeks, we picked up like 240 or 260 grand. I think it was 260. And at that point in time, we're like, all right, we all just kind of looking at each other. We knew that there was a lot of that money that we wouldn't have gotten, even if you called it half, right? Plus the ease of the way you did it. It makes the whole process of closing business smoother. Let's say somebody got communicated with the way they wanted to. It's brief, it's easy, it's a nudge, and then like you can turn it back over to a sales guy. So like if you turn it back over, let's say it's an HVAC system, right? And Hatch gets them into the conversation again, and then your sales guy takes back over. His life's a whole lot easier. He never had to make that call. Think about all the extra legwork he didn't have to do, and he gets to go close more work easier. He still makes his money.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's amplifying that output, and then all the sales guy has to do is basically interface. They're not having to do all that outreach. Everything is almost inbound to them.
Yeah, it just creates more business. I mean, everybody wins. The customer wins because it got better service. The guy makes more money with less work. We win because it's more revenue. I mean, all in all, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I remember Michael, when we did the webinar with him, he brought up some really great points that like it also made the technicians that go out there leave better estimates because they knew that there was you actually reaching out for feedback. So they like made more sense, and they like took time instead of just like this cookie cutter.
Yeah. And then just the chatter of it all, right? It's so easy to talk to somebody and say, well, let's connect tomorrow or something, and give them a verbal price. Like that stuff never closes. And I think they start closing at a higher rate in the field, which is something you guys can't have credit for, because guys' rates start closing up, but it's because there's this accountability where they have to leave their leads behind. Well, guess what happens when these plumbers don't want to leave leads in the first place? And that's half the reason they're not closing. So then everybody's numbers just starts getting a little better. It might even be like, well, Hatch isn't producing anymore. And it's because all the guys started leaving leads and they closed business. And then they actually robbed Hatch, right? Because they had a real conversation and left a real lead on site. They did their job properly. So you guys start doing their job a whole lot more properly. I think that's an odd twist.
No, I think I'm understanding it because other people have said this too, and correct me if I'm hearing it right, is like when sales guys know that like if they don't follow up, they know that the Hatch campaign will go out. And if the Hatch campaign goes out and follows up, then they get compensated differently.
Exactly. Yeah, so but one way they do it, and they don't want to be found out that they're not doing their job. Nobody does. So,
right.
And half the time we're all a little delusional that we're doing better than we think we are. It's like there's studies on whether or not you think you're smarter than the rest of the population,
Right. And by implementing Hatch, it's almost like the guys they then work to make it so that you don't need to use Hatch. But if you didn't have Hatch in place, they would
Exactly.
let it go to the wayside.
Yeah, they go back to the way they were.
Yeah.
So there's a level of accountability that comes with it.
Yeah.
It's so far so good. I mean, I think it's communicating a lot better. What one of the Yelp's finicky, and we've had humans chasing it around, but we've had to performance spiff them to do this work, and it's created a lot of turmoil in my call center. I'll be honest with you, like these guys are getting like catty with each other because like you try to spiff the person who responds to the customer first. Well, then some people will want to respond to Yelps instead of answering the phone, and then somebody else is getting mad because you didn't pick up the phone instead of replying to a Yelp text because one had a bigger spiff. So it's kind of eliminated that. It's doing the communicating for us on the front end, and now what we've done is, because it's reduced the volume of communicating you have to do, because Yelp, as we all know, you communicate with lots and lots and lots of people to get one or two to reply. Well, as you communicate with, it's a whole lot easier to have Hatch communicate with a lot of people. And then when the one replies, it's usually, you can put it on somebody's shift and you can scale that. Well, hey, now if it gets bigger, we can say, hey, well, we've got 2 people that are working the Yelp leads. And you just make it part of their job instead of having this whole spiff game and fighting them to do it or fighting with each other.
Yeah.
It's just, why you gotta ask questions like that? Like seriously, you know what it's like. It's non-existent. It's a whole lot of trust. It's a whole lot of belief that your people are doing better work on their own accord than they really are. So it's not a good look, I mean, you got a handful of people. You can tell the guys who are following up.
Yeah.
It's the guys who make a lot of money. I said, okay, well, let's plug it in and see what happens. Worst case scenario, it's over communicating and making people mad. That was like my real worry, is that people are going to get mad because they don't want to be bothered, and or that they'd get bothered by it and somebody think it was a bot, and then they wouldn't want to work with the bot, and they'd say, "Oh, rescuer sicking some sales bot on me." That's going to suck, right? What a bunch of scumbags. And really, it was, so my worry was that it wouldn't be received well, when really the goal is just, it's hard for people to remember that call us and say yes, right? And it's hard for us to remember to call them and ask for the business again when they needed more time to think about it or whatever it was. And so we did it for the right reasons, but I was worried about it for the right reasons too. So
with your estimate follow-ups right now, did you find, you were worried about over communicating with customers and bothering them? Has that happened at all?
No, not at all. I don't think, if somebody says, hey, I'm not interested, it ends right there. So there's no pestering. I think all in all, it's if anybody says no or stop at any point in time, I don't think just because somebody said, hey, maybe I'm not interested, means that it's never affected somebody's desire or willingness to continue doing business with us. It's speed to lead. It's going through, we have it integrated with Service Titan. So, I don't know anything that it's not integrated into. You've got Yelp. Are you using Angie? Like, tell me some of the Angie Home Advisor. We use all of them. If it's online and it's generating leads, we're communicating through it. We don't use any of the social media platforms. We may use Facebook for it. I don't even know if you guys work with Facebook. If you do, we do. Oh yeah. So then we do. We use it. There's no place I wouldn't use it. Yeah. Okay. So you're using it for Yelp, Angie, whatever your any digital lead source, basically you're using Hatch for the speed to lead aspect, and then you're using it for estimate follow-up. Okay, so we've got anecdotally some higher set rates. You're closing more business because your follow-up is better, and especially not just with HVAC, but it's especially helpful with plumbing. Yeah. And then I think Michael said you guys are using it for like cross-promoting, maybe like, people that are using your HVAC services, you can send a campaign out and tell them about your plumbing. Yeah, exactly. It's really good for cross-messaging, cross-marketing from plumbing to HVAC. Yeah, it just creates more business. Everybody wins. The customer wins because it got better service. The guy makes more money with less work. We win because, it's more revenue. All in all, it's kind of a no-brainer.